you've been around Unilag this year, then you've probably noticed the new sleek electric buses moving students between education and campus. They began operations in January under the university's Electric Vehicle Initiative in partnership with Ogota Global Resources and Chart Eco Global Services. And get this, in just 6 months, the buses have reportedly cut carbon emissions by 17 tons. And by December, that figure could jump to 120 tons. That sounds big. But here's the real question though. What does it actually mean for you as a student commuting on campus, whether that is going back to the hostel or attending classes? So on paper, the numbers sound impressive. The buses are fume-free, quiet, and our favorite word, cheaper. But if you step outside, you still notice campus is crawling with petrol cabs, diesel shuttle buses, and of course, the private cars as well, all pumping out emissions. So, are these new electric buses really making a dent? Or are they just a small drop in a very big bucket? To break it down, we are joined by Mr. Itunu, one of the partners behind this initiative. He'll help us understand what these numbers actually mean and whether these projects could shape the future of transport here at Unilag and maybe even other campuses around Nigeria. It's good to have you here, Mr.
Thank you.
Itunu.
Thank you for having me. Yeah,
Okay.
my
So,
pleasure.
a lot of students are probably wondering, just like I am, when we hear 17 tons of carbon saved, it sounds like a really big deal, right? But what does it actually mean?
Okay.
So, could you just explain what, 17 tons mean and also the projected number, which is 120 tons?
Okay. Yeah, thanks. Yeah, thank you for having me. My pleasure being here. So yeah, we've been able to, like you said, right, like you rightly said, we've been able to save 17 tons of emissions. So how we got that figure? So that was the figure we got from the first half of the year. That was from January to June because we actually started operations in January. So from January to June, we did a total mileage of the vehicles. So we started with 10 vehicles, 10 electric buses. So we did a total mileage and it summed up to 102,000 kilometers. So apparently we've been able to save 102,000 kilometers. So assuming we're not around, the alternative cabs or the alternative vehicles, which are the cabs, the shuttles, and what have we, would have covered, would have transported students at on a mileage of 102,000 kilometers. So what would have been generated in that 102,000 kilometers is about 20 tons. But that is gross. There's what we call gross emissions, like the total emissions. But when we look at the emissions that we also generated, so for instance, we actually charge our buses with the electric buses now. So from the power that we consume, and when there's no lights from the diesel that we burn and all of that, so we got about 17 tons of emissions as net emissions. So but by the end of the year, we are projecting up to 120 tons of emissions because obviously, we've increased our fleet to about 30 buses. Like I said, we started with 10 buses. Now we have about 30. We have 30 buses, right? 30 active buses, and we've also opened more routes. Initially, we used to ply only the campus to gate routes, but now it has been expanded to the back gates. So we have more mileage. So by the end of the year, we hope to cut, mathematically, we hope to cut. Mathematically, we are going to cut more than 120 tons of emissions, which is equivalent to planting over 5,000 trees. So just imagine you having like a forest, like a small forest. You know what it takes to have a forest, have over 5,000 trees. So that is what it is equivalent to.
Okay, so basically, not only are the buses cheaper, but it's also very good for the environment,
Yes,
is what I'm hearing.
Yes, exactly. They are eco-friendly.
They're eco-friendly.
Eco-friendly, yes.
Okay, perfect. And, you already explained to us the snapshot of what it means by of what you mean by
Okay.
17
Tons.
tons. So what is a snapshot for 120 tons? That's the projection,
So,
the projected
yes,
number.
yes. No, no, no. So this the 120 tons that I related to the 5,600 trees.
Oh, okay.
Yes, because a tree saves about 23 kg of tons in a year,
Okay.
right? So if you multiply 23 by the 120 tons, you get 5,600. So if you want to know how much trees you need to plant, if you want to know how much trees you need to plant, to save 17 tons, you just multiply the 23 kg by 17,000.
Okay.
So yeah,
Okay, so just for clarity, is
yeah,
it the more the buses are increased,
yeah.
the more the numbers increase?
Yes, the more the buses, the more the mileage. So once
Okay.
you have more mileage, yes, you are reducing emissions. So far the buses cover mileage, or so far they move, right? So far they prevent the alternative, which are the
Okay.
cabs, the shuttles. So far they prevent them from moving.
Moving.
You are saving emissions. So
Okay.
that is the concept behind it. So the
Okay.
more the cabs or the petrol vehicles move, right, the
Yeah.
more the emissions. So what we are just trying to do is to prevent this, um, is to prevent the mileage or
Okay.
to reduce the mileage of the alternatives. So that's
Okay.
how we are relating it.
Okay.
So that's how we calculated it.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Okay. So that makes a lot of sense.
Okay.
So following that, right,
Okay.
coming from understanding that a lot of the results that we're seeing is based off on the amount of buses we have on campus.
Okay.
How effective then, and this is entering my second question,
Okay.
is the how effective then are the buses currently on campus, considering that we still have the petrol buses in operation?
Yeah, so it's the road to net zero is actually a long road. So
Okay.
Nigeria actually has a target of 2060. That's when we hope to do net zero. So net zero means basically like whatever you are emitting, right? If, for instance, you emit 10 tons of emissions, like you need to invest in projects that will take out that 10 tons of emission. So, right, so this is a good start, and this is also a proof of concept. So, like, we've been able to show that this e-mobility, like, is an effective way of reducing emissions. So, if, for instance, now more than half of the vehicles on campus, or more than half of the commercial vehicles on campus are electric vehicles, right, it's going to cut the emissions on campus by half. You
Okay.
get, so like just like you said earlier, the more the electric buses, the more emissions it reduces. You get.
But then if the electric buses increases
Uh-huh.
and we still have the same amount of petroleum buses operating, is there really a difference
No,
in
like
that scenario?
so like I don't like to say this, but what people say the number of cabs that we used to have reduced.
Oh,
I
really?
don't know.
Okay.
I don't know how true
Okay.
that is,
Fair
but
enough.
that is the word on the street. They say the number of cabs have is a no-brainer. Like, and our price is way cheaper.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like, and that is the beauty of renewable energy. Renewable energy or sustainable energy, right, should actually make sense economically. Assuming we came here and said that I want to cut 220 tons of emissions, people will be like, what's our business? But to be able to create like an economic advantage
Yeah.
by reducing the price, because most people actually don't enter the bus because they want to cut emissions. It's only we that's championing the initiative that just trying to reduce the emissions. So
Okay.
if we have more electric buses, the understanding is that it's going to be cheaper to operate, and if it's cheaper to operate, that means there won't be need for the alternative, which is the petrol cab. I know petrol is so expensive and sometimes it can be scarce. So the more the vehicles, right, the more the electric vehicles, the less the alternatives, which are the petrol cabs or the diesel vehicles and all. So
Okay.
that is what should happen in an
Perfect.
ideal situation. Like in Unilag, like I said, what we are hearing is that the cabs have reduced.
Okay.
Now true that is
Okay. So let's talk scale, right? Currently, we have just a handful of these buses, here on campus. So how much more buses are we looking to get over the course of, the year, as well as what is the roadmap here? Could you just explain it to us? Is the goal to completely eliminate the petrol buses, or is it just going to be a mix of both the petrol and the electric? What is the end goal? Because I'm sure a lot of people, especially those who drive these cabs,
Okay.
like, what is the goal here?
So actually, the goal is to achieve net zero. Like for me personally,
Okay.
like the goal is to achieve net zero, and it also to decarbonize the transport sector. So the transport sector is actually one of the most carbonized sector, like Nigeria, not just Nigeria, in the world. So it generates about, from the transport sector, generate about 25% of the emissions.
Okay.
25% of the emissions of Nigeria's emissions are from the transport sector. So this is more like a proof of concepts. This is to show that, okay, an effective way to reduce the emissions in the transport sector is to invest in e-mobility. So Unilag, just to showcase how this can be done or how this can be actualized.
Okay.
You get? So that is our ultimate goal, right? Our ultimate goal is to upscale across board, not just in closed communities, because one of the reasons why we are probably thriving is because we're in a closed community, in a closed space where there's an enabling environment. Like I must confess, the environment is very, very enabling.
Okay.
That's
Unilag?
Yeah, Unilag.
Okay.
Unlike what is probably obtainable outside.
Yeah.
You understand? Like what's probably obtainable outside. So we are saying, okay, if we want to scale, to the outside world, we have the experience.
Okay.
Right? We've been doing it for almost a year now. So the relevant bodies can come over to say, okay, how do we upscale? Like how do we push it aside close communities? Because if we want to really make an impact, like we need to leave this terrain, like we need to go to the outside. That's where the majority of the emissions so that's where most of the emissions are generated.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. So
so I know that you've briefly touched on what you mean by net zero, but can you break it down to like layman's terms, what you mean by net zero?
Okay, so net zero basically is you having like zero emissions. So, but it's impossible for someone to have zero emissions.
Okay.
Because when you even when you breathe out carbon dioxide, you're generating emissions and all. You must live. The fact that you're living, they are generating emissions. So what net zero means is that if you do, let's say 5 kg of emissions, right, or 10 kg of emissions, right, you must invest, or you must come up with initiatives, right, that will take out that amount of emissions that you generated. So if you do 10 kg, right, and you invest, let's say plants, like I said, a tree takes out 23 kg of emissions in a year, right? So if you plant a tree, that means you're on the path to net zero. In fact, you're even below net zero because you generated 10 kg and you compensated by planting a tree. Do you understand?
Yeah.
So that is let's say for instance you generate 23 kg of emissions, right? And you plant a tree. That tree that you planted has already wiped out all the emissions that you generated. Do you understand? So that is already net zero. So because it is virtually impossible for us not to generate them, what would have been best is for us not to generate emissions at all. But it is impossible. Right? You have to generate emissions. So if at all we are going to generate emissions, we must come up with initiatives that are eco-friendly, like having solar panels. So for instance now, like instead of using electricity and you have your solar panels, that means you're not getting any emissions from electricity. So if you have your cooking gas, instead of using the conventional cooking gas, if you have your biogas, it's reducing your emissions. Like just coming up with initiatives when you have to drive a car. So not by investing in e-mobility, that's just simple things that you can do. For example, by trekking or riding a bicycle. So instead of boarding a cab, to burn diesel or burn petrol, like I just take a walk. So you can just, let's say you want to go to VI now, instead of boarding no bike, I can just take a walk. You can take a walk to VI now, so you've already reduced the emissions. So it's just about you being environmental conscious. So whatever thing you want to do, you have to know the environmental impacts of whatever you want to do. So if it is in your consciousness that,
Yeah.
okay, I'm going to generate some amount of emissions by embarking on this activity, like you need to also come up with ways that you can use to take out the emissions that you want to generate. You get, so that is basically net zero. You just taking out whatever emissions that
Okay.
do you understand?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
So, and this just be asking,
Okay.
what really is driving, this initiative? Is it more of the fact that you are an environmental enthusiast? Like, do you desire a Nigeria where, the air is clean, or?
So definitely, like, I'm also an alumnus of this university, right? So when we were in school back then, how much was cab? I think it was about 13 naira to 15 naira thereabouts, and it got to about 200 naira. So what actually started the whole thing was when it got to 200, we were like, it's too expensive, and students were complaining because I visit Unilag a lot. Students were complaining that said they cannot afford it. They kept on trekking. No, so that was when we now came up with the initiative on how to make life better for people. So not just the environmental aspect, also the social aspects, because it's also a bragging right for Unilag, because Unilag is probably the first university in the country to embark on this scale of e-mobility. Right. So
and I must say your initiative is actually making such a huge difference, because the other day I actually took it upon myself to board one of the buses, and not only is it cheaper, it's actually very conducive as well. I think very comfortable. One of the favorite thing I loved about is how cross-ventilated the buses are, and a lot of students actually love the fact that it's very comfortable
and cheaper
100 naira. So looking forward.
The Deputy Vice Chancellor of Academics and Research, Professor Bola Obo. The Deputy Vice Chancellor, Development Services, Professor Olusho Afolabi. The Deputy Vice Chancellor, Management Services, Professor Muyiwa Falaye. The Registrar, Mrs. Victoria Abosede Wycliffe, ably represented by Mrs. Abimbola Durojaye. The Bursar, Mrs. Oluwafunmilola Adekunle, represented by Mr. Anthony Aluko. The University Librarian, Professor Olatukumu Kiki. The Provost College of Medicine, Professor Ademola Oremusu, represented by the Deputy Provost, Professor Daniel Odebi. The Dean Faculty of Pharmacy, distinguished ladies and gentlemen of the press. I welcome you all to the 446th inaugural lecture of the University of Lagos and the 24th in the 2024-2025 academic session. Today's inaugural lecture, Molecules That Heal, the exploration of the medicinal and natural product chemist, will be delivered by Professor of Pharmaceutical Chemistry and the immediate past Dean of our Faculty of Pharmacy, Professor Gloria Abiodun Ayola, a distinguished scholar with expertise in natural products, drug discovery, and pharmaceutical analysis. Professor Gloria Ayola is an alumnus of the University College London, London School of Pharmacy, and the University of Bath in the UK, where she obtained her doctorate degree in medicinal chemistry in 1998. At Bath, she was able to hone her skills in the synthesis of cyclic adenosine diphosphate ribose and analogs, works that laid the foundation for her lifelong pursuit of therapeutic innovations. Over the years, Professor Ayola has dedicated her research to unlocking the healing potentials in plants used in traditional medicines, exploring their antibacterial, anti-cancer, anti-inflammatory, and anti-diabetic properties. Her pioneering studies have led to the isolation of novel bioflavonoids and prenelated acronyms with remarkable pharmacological activities from tallow trees and orange milk trees. She also identified potent antimicrobial agents from the aromatic oils of cloves and mandarin orange, popularly known as tangerine, through advanced gas chromatography, mass spectrometry analysis, and has contributed significantly to the green synthesis of metal nanoparticles of hog plums and black afara with promising antimicrobial applications. During her sabbatical year, Professor Ayola was a senior research fellow at the School of Cancer and Pharmaceutical Sciences of the King's College London, where she supervised postgraduate and undergraduate projects on the design of efflux-resistant biocides, a new frontier in combating drug resistance. Today, her research continues to be driven by the urgent global challenge of antimicrobial resistance and needs for rigorous quality assessment of herbal medicinal products. Her excellence has been recognized through several prestigious awards, including the TED Fund grants in 2021 and 2023, participation at the Imperial Business School Executives Education Program in 2022, and selection for the Women for Africa and Cranfield University Leadership Training for Female Professors in 2023. Beyond her scholarship, Professor Ayola has been a pillar of leadership and service in the University of Lagos. She recently concluded her term as Dean Faculty of Pharmacy and has served 4 terms as acting head of the Department of Pharmaceutical Chemistry and contributed her expertise on several boards and committees, including the Postgraduate School Board, Student Disciplinary Board, the Faculty Curriculum Review Committee, and Board of Trustees of the Ladipo Mobolaji Abisogun Afodu Annual Lecture in Pharmacy. Our inaugural lecturer is a dedicated mentor, committed to nurturing the next generation of scientists with patience and vision. She is happily married, and her union is blessed with 4 children. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my honor to invite Professor Gloria Abiodun Ayola to the podium to deliver her inaugural lecture. The Vice Chancellor, Deputy Vice Chancellor, Academic and Research, Deputy Vice Chancellor, Development Services, Deputy Vice Chancellor, Management Services, the Registrar, the Bursar, the University Librarian, the Provost, College of Medicine, the Dean, Faculty of Pharmacy, Deans of other faculties, members of University Senate, heads of departments and directors, other principal officers of the university, distinguished academic and professional colleagues, distinguished non-teaching, administrative and technical chairman and members from the Pharmaceutical Society of Nigeria, your Royal Majesties and Highnesses, family, friends, and church members, great students of Unilag, members of the press, print and electronic media, distinguished invited guests, ladies and gentlemen. I thank the Almighty God for sparing my life to see this day and for giving me the opportunity to deliver my inaugural lecture today. Madam Vice Chancellor, I want to express my profound gratitude to you for granting your approval for me to deliver my inaugural lecture, thereby making this day a reality. It is with profound gratitude and deep humility that I deliver the 24th inaugural lecture in the 2024-25 session before this esteemed audience, and a privilege to welcome you all. Standing here today is not only a personal milestone, but a symbolic convergence of purpose, perseverance, and the quiet but enduring power of molecules, molecules that heal. My journey as a medicinal and natural product chemist has been one defined by curiosity. Curiosity about the secrets nature holds and how those secrets might relieve human suffering. From the leaves in the forest to the complex compounds under the microscope, I have been privileged to explore the therapeutic dimensions of nature's vast pharmacopoeia. This lecture titled Molecules That Heal, the exploration of a medicinal and natural product chemist, is both a reflection on decades of research and a call to action. It seeks to illuminate the crucial role that natural products continue to play in drug discovery and to highlight the innovative strides being made to tackle pressing challenges such as antimicrobial resistance, chronic inflammatory diseases, and drug development bottlenecks. In sharing this body of work, I hope to inspire renewed commitment to translational science rooted in our natural resources, to encourage younger scientists to pursue research with courage and integrity, and to affirm that from nature's complexity arises hope and healing. Madam Vice Chancellor, this is the outline of my lecture. What is a molecule? A molecule is the smallest unit of substance that retains its chemical identity. It consists of 2 or more atoms held together by chemical bonds such as covalent or ionic bonds. Molecules can be as simple as 2 hydrogen atoms in a molecule, and you also have 2 oxygen atoms in a molecule, and it can be as complex as a protein structure. Please, Madam Vice Chancellor, permit me to take us through the journey of molecules in the drug discovery process. There are 3 main categories of tests performed during the drug discovery process. In silico tests, where computer simulations are used to predict how a drug molecule binds to the target. In vitro experiments that are performed outside the living organisms in test tubes, and in vivo tests are performed in living organisms, either in animals or humans. The drug discovery process starts by identifying a target. Once the target is identified, several molecules are screened in order to discover the lead compound or a hit. Once the lead compound is discovered, the lead is optimized by synthesis of various analogs, and once the lead has been optimized, we move on to the preclinical testing phase, which is testing in at least 2 species of animals. Once the drug is deemed to be safe and efficacious in animal studies, then we move to the clinical trial phase, which consists of 3 phases. And once this is a test in humans, and once the drug has been deemed to be safe and efficacious in humans, an application for a new drug is filed to the necessary regulatory body, they review all the research data, and if everything goes well and approval is given, then the drug is released into the market. Madam Vice Chancellor, this process is a slow and complex one. It can take anything from 14 to 25 years. And not only that, it is also a risky process, because out of the 5,000 compounds that is screened at the lead discovery phase, probably only one will get to the market. And it's also very costly. It can cost up to $2 billion. I must say that most of the research we are carrying out in this part of the world stops at the preclinical stage because of funding issues. Madam Vice Chancellor, my scientific journey began in the realm of chemical messengers and molecular signaling. Our cells must communicate with one another in order to maintain life processes. There are various ways communication occurs. Small hydrophobic molecules are able to pass through the lipid membrane of their target cell straight into the cell to elicit a response. However, most of the signaling molecules are hydrophilic in nature, and they bind to receptors, and therefore we need additional messengers are needed to relay the message into the cell for a response to be given. These additional messengers are known as secondary messengers. Examples of the secondary messengers are cyclic adenosine monophosphate, inositol triphosphate, and cyclic adenosine diphosphate ribose. Faulty signaling is central to pathology of numerous diseases, including cancer, autoimmune diseases, and microbial infections. Interestingly, pathogenic organisms exploit host signaling mechanisms to establish infection and evade immune responses. Madam Vice Chancellor, my PhD and early research focused on the synthesis of cyclic adenosine diphosphate ribose analogs. This is a secondary messenger derived from nicotinamide adenine dinucleotide, and this research was done under the supervision of Professor Barry Potter at the University of Bath, in which several modifications was made to the structure of cyclic adenosine diphosphate ribose, which I will refer to as CADPR. This is the structure, so we made modifications to several portions of this molecule. And these analogs were tested in sea urchin egg, homogeneous Joker T cells, and cardiac myocytes. And we found that CADPR signaling is involved in insulin secretion, contraction of cardiac myocytes, and regulation of immune responses. Later, I turned my attention to a more urgent public health concern, antimicrobial resistance. Thank you. Antimicrobial resistance occurs when microbes they change over time and no longer respond to the medicines that are designed to kill them. So, because of this, infections become harder to treat, and there's increasing risk of disease spread, severe illness, and death. As a result, the infection persists in the body, increasing the risk of spread to others. Antimicrobial resistance-related infections were found to be responsible for 1.3 million deaths in 2020, and this is predicted to increase to 8.7 to 10 million by 2050. The misuse and overuse of antimicrobials in humans, animals, and plants are the main drivers in the development of drug-resistant pathogens. Practices such as taking 1 dose of tetracycline for diarrhea or inability to complete a course of antibiotic treatments are responsible for the spread of antimicrobial resistance. A group of organisms known as the escape organisms are notorious for antimicrobial resistance. These are, as listed, Enterococcus faecium, Staphylococcus aureus, Klebsiella pneumoniae, Acinetobacter baumannii, Pseudomonas aeruginosa,